Hey guys, welcome to the Rich Programmer Podcast. I'm your host, the Rich Programmer. In this show, I'm going to talk about how we as programmers can go from making lower below six figures to making 200, 300, even 400,000 using nothing more than just hard work and coding skills. So if that sounds like something you'd like to do, please consider subscribing and staying up to date with the podcast. So today, I'm going to be talking about the kind of road to 100,000 and the steps that you have to take. And this is one of the steps which is joining a startup. Joining a startup is really important because they will give you work, and from that work, you will derive experience. At least for me, I kind of like to value my time on two ends. So even if the startup doesn't work out, I got the experience. That being said, I'm going to talk about kind of the red flags behind what you should look out for in terms of joining a good startup and joining a bad startup, because there's a lot more bad startups than good ones. So let's get into it. I recently spoke with the CEO of a decently early stage startup. He had people on his advisory board and people in his team with interesting backgrounds. One was even one of the higher ups at Disney. He was an author who I assumed was decently accomplished. He wasn't starving, but then again, he wasn't like JK Rowling or anything like that. His app idea was going to revolutionize, in quotes, the publishing industry, and he was going to give an equity stake to the developer he picked. He already had a CTO, which is Chief Technology Officer, kind of runs the whole technical operation of the business, already lined up. Happened to be the Disney guy who was just waiting for the funding to hit, and all he needed was a competent app developer to come in and make the product, the MVP, which is the minimum viable product. It's kind of like product version 1. He had marketing channels and access to large events. And I decided not to pursue this opportunity 45 minutes in talking with this guy. Why did I do this? Well, on top of I have a lot better opportunities out there, I still would have passed this up if I was brand new. And I'm going to get into this. So it sounds like the opportunity of a lifetime for someone starting out. I mean, they got all the connections. They're ready to get customers. You just have to come in there and make the app, and you'll make millions, right? So if you're someone who had any experience with startups in the past, some of the things I mentioned should leave hair standing on your neck and giving you feel uneasy, and kind of want to talk about why that is. So if you read or listened to my first podcast or post on how I landed my first 100K job at 20 years old, part of that job was getting experience at a startup I joined. And I made a lot of these mistakes I'm about to tell you. So learn from experience. I advocate for the programmers that need experience to land a six-figure job to join a startup and take whatever equity they think is fair. They would gain more than enough technical experience and know-how in just working in the overall business, making them more than ready for any kind of job involving that particular tech stack. I also advocate that the startup could also work out, and you could find yourself making seven figures in a few years if the startup's really killing it. This statistically is very unlikely. Didn't happen for me. But this article should help you kind of put yourself around the right people who not only will make you smarter, but drastically increase the odds of that company actually working out. So joining as a founding developer is really hard. You have to make the entire product, and there's a lot of technical growth and marketing stuff baked into the product. You deserve to be compensated for your effort relative to the amount of risk you're taking on, and you shouldn't be sold into doing it by many of these CEO types that are pretty slick. They think their app or whatever is going to make billions, and you deserve nothing, and they deserve all the equity even though they didn't build the product. That's kind of just an overall vibe you get from a lot of these CEO types. They think they're the center of the universe, and everyone who doesn't bow down to their company and do whatever they say is somehow missing out on a ground floor opportunity. And while that was probably true for Apple or Microsoft when it started out, the initial founders and the initial joining members made millions. This is not usually the case. Here's some red flags to watch out for when just talking with startups to join. So red flag number 1, they do not disclose equity or payment structure up front. This is one of the most important ones, as getting in on the other red flags doesn't really matter if you're not getting compensated. This is not to say they aren't disclosing how much you're getting paid in the first 5 minutes of the meeting, but if you're not clear about the payment in the first hour of talking with them, you're getting taken advantage of, especially if they start asking you to do stuff without you even agreeing to anything or them talking about this. There's a certain breed of self-centered idiot out there that wants you to build Facebook for dogs, some crazy platform, huge tech stack for 1% of their company. And they want you to do this, work on weekends, get their dry cleaning and let them go on dates with your wife. It sounds great, right? Run the other way. if they start asking you these types of crazy stuff. Red flag number 2, no good answer to this question. What is your plan to repeatably get business or customers? This is the second most important, because if your business can't get customers, you're not really building a business and you have worthless software. The CEO should have a decent idea about where they're going to get customers, what their market they're targeting, what their advertising and customer acquisition plans look like, and if there's any answer that's kind of full of holes or no real thought put into it, you better question them. If they can't give a good answer, ask them how they plan to solve that problem, and if you get the impression that this person is unable to solve this problem, time to leave the meeting. So red flag number 3, the market's literally billions. If we just get 1% of that, we'll be making $100 million per year. Markets that are so large like this are typically called red oceans. If you've read Blue Ocean Strategy, that's a really good book. But it basically talks about the concept of red oceans where markets and competition is so strong, breaking in is nearly impossible. A good example of this is like the auto industry. Only Elon Musk could do it. Red flag number 4, we are making Facebook for dogs. We want a website, iPhone app, Android app, and iPad app. Can you have this ready in 2 weeks? Startups that ask you the world and don't really have any alignment of interest. They just want you to build crazy things and don't really care about you, are not a place you want to join. You want them to guide the product decisions and not give you crazy deadlines and understand how and why you're building these things. And it's really unrealistic to ask crazy deadlines of you. If they get mad at you or say you're not dedicated for being able to deliver the world on a silver platter to them, definitely run the other way. And red flag number 5, our competition is literally no one. That can mean a few things, but what it most likely means is there are no customers. So if you're going to a market where there's no one else, congrats. You're either discovering the next gold rush or you're entering into a barren desert where there's no competition and no customers to compete over. Markets that are similar with no competition or markets that are smaller with no competition are usually promising. Inversely, someone said that their market is $1 billion and there's no competition, definitely run the other way. A very good example of a small market company is PayPal, which originally solved the problem of payment for eBay sellers, which was a very small market back in those times. So yeah, thanks so much, guys. Leave a like if you like this and subscribe if you want to hear more. Thank you so much. This is Rich Programmer. Goodbye.